Hello, now being in front of the camera, it is nearly not possible. This is only to show we have today, the 19th. This is news, police news from today. This is a thing. Now being before the camera, I hesitate to give to the audience, but it is the suspicion from of old, no, from the time I was young, this is real, a photograph, that there could be some threat toward health and safety, but it was never communicated with government. There came someone who said something, but communication is more than that. I don't know if there is something going on. This is real, not fully understood. And it is not known, but there could even be radio. Something. My mother said, the elder, that is she said there are no techniques she did not learn about. It was that even the women who had been working in a planning circle for economics had been warned that there could be hindrances. They did it themselves, traveled the route and looked, for example, in the chemistry, to look at the drugstore or to look in other possibilities that the workforce was hindered. With me, the motive had not been there. It was not communicated, but it could well be against my mother because of the old things. Now understanding, this is what I saw as something strange. I had not the chance to look at this woman as someone else. There's the chance to look at the old I had before, and that had been a book. There is someone else representing this Duchess of Hanover, but this is not the most important. I had other things, traces. This Freiherr von Mosebach, it was said that is someone that is, I don't know what, but because of the, this is from a book, of the rumors, I came to the conclusion, but I couldn't prove it, that there could be some knowledge not given me as a child. You see, at that age, I had not the chance to look into something. My mother said later, but can it be that since, or could it be, that since I look into it, this is a story, maybe you have heard about it, many routes go to the old country, and there to the area where German is the language. With me it is strange. I feel things, I myself had been a little bit in a diplomatic schooling to learn about the things I could not, because the father was missing since World War II, had been missing, and there had been something strange. I was invited to different cultures, and there even a black man no, that is not his name. Luther King. It was said he could have been acquainted to someone among my forefathers. Therefore, there had been a gap because of World War II. This is with two cameras. Those are really my hands. And it is strange. I see now signs that there could be someone being interested right now going on to hinder me somehow. And this is really strange because I did never enter any group, but it could be false suspicion that I did so. My mother said children are left alone. That had been the custom from of old, and I'm not willing to be called lunatic, but doctors treat me like you could imagine maligning the name. Understand, this is hesitation from my side to talk about it. Because I understand it is a thing you cannot prove. The Havana syndrome, you understand? This man could be the man, the husband of my raising nurse. I had been somewhere, and then came someone from South Africa and said, I knew you because I had been with you before you came. And my mother, the younger, said, this is not to be talked about. In German, lasse die Flausen nicht in den Kopf setzen. This important, it is not that I ever had the chance to find out about my birth. That had been strange, and then now I understand. I had been a little bit, not training, but being a helper without any contract. But then, of course, you learn to look at your surrounding. When it changes, whom could I report? I'm really broken down, now understanding this must be going on for decades. You do not learn the world in this part, in this Federal Republic surrounding, otherwise. Like not fitting in and behavior is okay. You cannot prove people do things wrong. But understanding this could point to the direction that my mother had opponents, not enemies, opponents, but maybe behaving like enemies. And this could point to the direction and Mrs. Marshall then would be the Philippine lady who talked to me as being very little, when being very little. And I'm not having the ambition to talk English or to show my grammar. My grammar to be, I'm not applying for anything. I'm not going to the point that I do not want to know, and I'm not resigning, not in the least. I do not know what's going on, and the appearance that was my training, my being raised, is not important. It doesn't matter, because we had that strange, the lost war, and then privately, no acquaintance with any Nazi. And even without that, there is really my want to know. This is a human right. And I'm saying, if that is true, then another was then adopted by those two. She then could be that young Johanna Marina. And Papa, who is Papa? Once someone came to the doorstep and said, another Rothschild is living here. No, he is not. Could be from of old, he said. You understand? I'm not joining any group. The life had been hard and very simple, but I'm not giving away any rights. If my father, Karl, my grandfather, the old grandfather, had been George Custer, and then a stockbroker, and buying lands, every piece of it is of interest. It's not being given away. It is used in between, of course, maybe grazing cattle. The cattle then are not part of it, but it is not that I ever had the idea to give away without knowing. It had been criminally hidden. This is now my suspicion, and maybe because asking about my mother, Victoria Louise, the House of Prussia has no say. They threw the door at her. Then it is really true that my mother had been a young lady and then being left on the street from members of the House of Prussia. It is really rightful right now the case that I suspect the so-called nobility to play not only tricks, but maybe thinking they could have the right to do something, to use radio equipment or maybe the internet to have some influence, some negative influence on me. But even me looking like 200 years, it is not that far right now, that does not give you the right to think. I would have the idea to receive anything else than what is really there. It is not that I had the idea to join any group. My being raised was strict, keep yourself free. And there had been some extra standing of my mother, and I want to know what it could be. Then he was being trained and being the grandfather as well. And this is not strange. It is pregnancy sharing of two mothers, and whose papa? He was run over by a car. Was it a quarrel between Jewish families about inheritances? This is a rumor. You can't say anything. I don't know. I never had the chance to go after any trace. And being in a ex-communist part country, there is hatred toward the old industrial leaders. Hessen had been industrialized, and he had been head of a banking system, but nothing there. You see, the lost war brought a loss of protection. And me not having many of those days on the beach, for me, I wanted to be in peace and in safety. And there had been people then taking advantage of my poor condition. This is true. And of course, I can complain, I can make an impression or not. I'd rather not want to be anything except being free and to have that what is there on the earth being distributed, and I'm not willing to give in to politicians who play the communists. Who play the communists and maybe chancellors, and then thinking they could give me a bad name, pay something to doctors, and I cannot prove it. It is, everything is comedy. You understand? This is my comedy play to give you the idea. It could be that this is not true. But then, how come someone is maligning my name and then having infiltrated? No, this family, it never had been a family. But religious believers had been there, and those make own laws. I want to be left alone. There is no Jewish Christian congregation. There is not something that could represent me. I want to be left alone, but I want to know if Switzerland has any insight that my own grandfather, Karl Urban, had been the owner of something. There have been rumors, and someone at my bed, yes, in the children's room, and there I gave the surname Urban. Yes, I was asked, you can call yourself by that name as well. Me being 5 years, 6 years old, and then someone came from Florida, and he's now looking like a con man. Had he been a daycare papa? Possibly so, but I'm not giving in. This life had been very poor. You see, this is how you could expect, but you're not coming to my house. You're not coming to my house. First, expect me to be not amused. There had been acquaintances to some British nobility, to some Netherlandish, to some Danish, to some Swedish, but it did not broke. There was nothing. But young ladies were moved, were pushed forward to be engaged. You understand? This had been strange. I thought it is culture all over the world, and being at that age and a little bit older, you don't understand. I only knew it is strange, and this is of course comedy. But understanding it is not. The excuse, we lost the war, is not valid. And George Custer is someone else. You can look it up at Wikipedia. Is that valid? No, it is not. It is truly rightful back then to have someone working for you and holding the line that the position, the character of George Custer is not empty in North America. And then being in a combat situation, the original had to take over, and there's some insight and some asking, but not more. The excuse, we lost the war, was never accepted. There is no working with Nazi. There have been people being nice to be helped, and then those helped themselves, and this goes as a police report with comedy. I don't know, is it joke? Is it a joke? I'm not in a Jewish family. I'm not in a Christian family. This is out of church, a believer's family. And this is important to understand. It is important that some things falling down could be manipulated. Is this house like a ghost? Pest this house? My mother said she felt something, like being nervous without having any reason. And then next to this is Pritz. You understand? Someone who had a relative in television, and like Hotzenplotz. Was this a fairy tale, a rather horror story? He had radio equipment 1899, and this is not filing a police report to German police. I do not like them. Maligning my name by thinking I would be in need of medical. And this I'm not. I want to go to a doctor when I need it, and not when those false men, those ridiculous caretakers. You understand, this has gone down the road, and you in America knew about it. You in Switzerland knew about it, that this could happen, and you didn't do nothing. Therefore, you have it in the open. Abroad, there had been the explaining, people could do it to you, and now being in that gap, I can't do anything. Only asking you, if you have any working diplomatic force, ask them if there's something going on at Rostocker. If they house 40, maybe, or other houses, is it full of equipment? My mother said, maybe people look out to help us. I don't like it. I'm now alone, and this is to give you an insight. I do not want to have a talk. I don't like it. People have strange ideas. I do not like parties. My father had been someone, and he had to help. And then World War II was over, and maybe he was the only one. No, he was not even involved. He was asked by counselors against the Eastern warfare. He was. My mother said only something when being asked. And I always was at a loss as a child. I did not know what was going on. Only accidentally I knew something. And this is to you again. Being explained is not enough. But maybe there is nothing going on officially. Maybe it is privately. People have equipment and then think they could play studio. A studio talk or something strange. I don't like it. And I do not want to talk about it. I want to be taken seriously as someone who's not being crazy. And I do not like the idea there could be something going on like in Havana, in Cuba. In Cuba there had been a proven cross of radio working people, well, not a cross, but something. Well, this could be, maybe it is reenactment. I remember I was asked to play, of course, as I was explained, it was not the custom to take photographs. This is Cuba. And there had been an embassy, and one radio, two radio, you see, and then radioing. And in the middle there had been an ambassador being attacked. But I'm not an ambassador. I have not any idea. I have some idea that there is misunderstanding. Please look into it. There is a strange telling on the internet from me. It is a comedy. Others are thinking it is a joke. But it is only comedy to those who think it is. With me it is not fun, not at all. And if it is lands all over the world, I'm interested. I did not give it away. Is he the Carl who took it off the market? Or was he only the manager? This never had been solved. No one can say he went away. I did not. The world is now connected. You can't go out of this world. It is, for example, VK. You can see it there, that I'm looking. I'm not saying it is what I now think as a detective, but others warned far away. It could be in the future that your surrounding is somehow manipulated. But is that possible, that even doctors could play with the false manipulation? No one knows. It is said, no one knows till now. It was said that Custer had worked in the area before the United Nations to have it there to protect the natural living, the more natural living mountain men, and the seamen and others who were not regarded as being in the Western style. And me understanding, it is nearly everything about applying, showing yourself to make a good impression. This is not. It is for you to understand, I'm not in any group right now, and I'm not joining. And I'm not too much angry, I'm disappointed. What is going on? Had there been a trick from Luxembourg? I was asked far away in the back it was, but even not joining political workforce, not joining diplomatic workforce, this does not make it a common good. I'm not following communist ideas, and I want to know. I could give my statement in German, but it is more of interest to those who already understand something's going on. And the doctor's diagnosis would give the false doctors the right, maybe police are following that. If I'm telling things, I would be someone who want to be a leader, not necessarily that is to be expected. Not necessarily, I don't know, I need grounds. Even it was said there is an ancestry. It had been the dreaming far away, not being thinkable, not at all, that it is in the dark. And then it was said, left in the dark, my mother was in the protection, like a staff member, in the protection of nobility. And then she could have dreamt somehow to be it herself, and the radioing could, and it is of course a good excuse, could bring down your ability, your intelligence to think. And who could do so? There's no police, not even being in the least equipped to detect mountain radioing or Indian radioing. You understand? It is in Brazil. It once was in the papers called Indianerfunk, Indian radioing. And in Switzerland, I overheard it in a shop, that a father said to his son, don't buy it, even if someone is giving you some manipulation. And then, being in a little village, I overheard, one said to his neighbor, don't think that strange nonsense. I feel molested. And this is like strange people believing in demonic power. I'm not. Of course it is there, but I'm not fearing that, and I don't like it. Don't play with it. It is important. I had been a child when that had been in everyday talk. The conflict between the two systems. And then I understood times had changed, and my mother had been a dreamer. That was the official version, but she had not. I now find it. That is not a proof to me that this Custer, but if you look at Karl May, it could be coincident. It could be coincident. No, that not. That those had characters. No, it is not. But again, at Kaiser and Victoria, and I can't prove it because I thought to myself, there is a character. My mother was in the, had been, this is someone else. She had been in the surrounding of this Kaisertochter. And it could well be, but this is someone else, you see. This is maybe someone else as well. Reenactment had been in the 70s. There's someone else. My mother had there a scar. This could point to the direction that my mother had that, but why is it not possible? People go after the idea. I want to know. And this is very strange, now feeling the possibility that hatred against nobility could be there, or hatred among nobility, or even hatred from communists, because those had been very good industrial people themselves. It never goes to the state because of that. This is communists' idea. We take it because those rob the people. And it is very much communicated, or it had been, and then I now understand people gave me the idea. This is that there is something with the overall German roots in America. I was even asked how to have this Steuben parade, but this could not be a proof, only an idea that my mother had been regarded as knowing the nobility history. Who is that? Karl Schurz. Karl Schurz? Nothing is as a proof, but I had been there, and people asked me, is she looking like grandmother? No, that is someone else. Maybe the hairdress had been in that style. Therefore, I'm stumbling across things, and nevertheless, understanding this is a thing people asked. What to do with it? Something about the manufacturing business, the genes, and so on. And I was trained to be a future counselor in economics and to weigh out. And then leaving in the dark, you of course give it like a Solomonic to the best of the interests of the parties, but never thinking about your own. And this is important. I do not follow the idea that many Americans had. The Indians are long gone, and we take then a line, and I'm not talking about the old things. This is not philosophical. This is important. I never wanted to give away because I did not have anything. My mother was expecting, and then she was called dementia sick. Dementia sick, yes. Dementia sick. And I never had been very long. I had been in America. Why did I forget? You can forget it. I had been invited. I went along, was a helper to businessmen who filled in as travel parents, travel fathers. But this never gave them the right to give anything away, but maybe some did. And I want to know. I'm not following the idea that I pay for Nazi criminal deeds. I don't. The father had been a resistance fighter. He was falsely put to the Czech Republic. This is important. I have not in mind. This is for you if you're interested to see. If you might think about, I don't know how much it is worth, but it is important that I remember this book was planned, and somehow there had been the possibility to say something to it. But my mother, living on welfare money, not even knowing about it, she said, I have 2 pension forms. One approximately 600 D-Mark, and the other 300. It was below 1,000. And this really was a shock to me when I once went and fetched it. No, from the bank, or was it a check at a city hall? Therefore, money was not there as a topic. It was the weighing and the networking of business ideas. And then for a long time I thought, this is life. You have ups and downs, and I had downs and did not complain. But I'm not complaining now, right now, because no one is thinking about the idea that I could be falsely, without me allowing to have here such a radio thing going on. It could be, this is only as a sample, that we have the 19th, a kind of proof. This was taken at school. I have not many photographs, and it had been a straining youth. And people thought about the idea I needed protection. There even came someone saying he had been Bud Spencer, the actor behind it. Bud Spencer was in the movie with Terence Hill. He had been a swimming star. I don't know if he had been with the Olympics or wanted to be there. And he would have been quite a help. But it was not allowed. My mother, the younger, she was strict. She did not want me to go into things. Later I had a little bit in the play, taking part. Important to understand, I'm not totally against the filming industry. But then there had been a call. Oh no, there is, Japan is not there. No, it isn't. But nevertheless, if people asked. My mother thought about things. Maybe there had been the asking about building a new capital city. In the former days, my mother had been a counselor, privately, or a networker. And with that, I learned to understand how to do it. And then it died down because of the old age of my mother. It was approximately 1985. Then was not possible for her to raise money. She could ask people to help, for example, with the tuition fee, and that was then a shock to her. How could people do that to me? Understand? It is common to people to be not wanted anymore. But I've learned it is one thing to have the war, another thing is to put it into my shoes. I'm not accepting that. And the saying, "We lost the war," is rather sarcasm. This has nothing to do with it. I think I have been born in the United States. I do not even want to argue about it. I have remembrances, and it could be South Africa, or could it be New York? How come? My mother said, the other, and my mother as well, there had been a helicopter flight. And people wanted to have a pay for it after years. There's Japan. And it is of interest, but I'm not saying I want to join diplomatic workforce. I'm only explaining that I have been to some places, and people should remember. Maybe not my mother that much, but maybe me, being the orphan who was taken alongside, and no, not having any other means, and this is unthinkable, unheard of, except the internet. I have not the possibility to go to places. I had done it 2005 after the death of Papa. My mother already died 2002, and Mama 2009. But I went there, and it was not to the pleasure of government. They did not like it somehow, because you're not allowed to enter the White House on your own. I said, it's not working. People come to me and ask about things. I get the idea they want me to work for political entities. I don't like that idea, that people think that way. I want to have it officially, and only officially, if there is something, with contracts, with security, with insurance, but not that people address me on the street. It had been in the dark. I was on the stroll in the village, Deutz. And there, below the seniors' residence, someone said I should come along. And there's, of course, no protection, and it is that way. Why do you need it if you have that strange acquaintances? And I don't have strange acquaintances. It could be someone playing tricks. And I want to say this is internationally, this hostess country, this country giving me an opportunity to live here, this in German Gastgeberland, has the duty and is still having it. I'm not in any group, not in the nobility group. I'm not represented by Britain and not by Sweden and not by or with Denmark or not by or with Netherlands. Yes, I'm saying it again. My English is not good because I never used it till 2-3 decades. And the possibility had been there with the other children of diplomats. I had been in a diplomatic schooling 1 week to learn about the surrounding. And those children learned, look out, that you are not going into friendships that are manipulated. And that your doctor is doing it without being somehow influenced. And who is doing to check that? I don't know. I need your help. And this should come from abroad, because in this country, in Germany, Federal Republic, it's not Germany, Federal Republic, there had been strange ideas. This Petrov family is not representing me, none in the family. I'm not against them, but those have no idea that I had been to other places. For security reasons, that was not communicated. At weekends I was away, and in the small house the others were not allowed to know. And this you do if you have no security. It is important. The neighbors, of course, don't know it, but now I come to the conclusion those already know it. And I have no idea and not any interest to do detective work and ask someone. I do not want to join. I was thrown in doctors' prisons, and I'm still alive. I'm in a quite good mood, but not amused at all. Maybe people tricked others, maybe from other countries like Luxembourg, like Netherlands, like Denmark, like France, like Switzerland, like Austria, like the Czech Republic or Slovak Republic, Poland, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, Ireland, Great Britain, or the United Kingdom, the Commonwealth. It was said that it could be done if people expect to have a profit. There could be the postal system be with man in the middle. But who can check on that? Really, I don't know. In my opinion, it is the duty of the hostess country, not a host. Yes, a host country, not a hostess. A hostess, hostage taking. No, I don't mean that. I mean the country that gives me opportunity to have my home. It is a duty to look into it and to communicate about it. I have never had the idea. I now suspect those are not even accepting the responsibility, but they do. They do. They have responsibility, and it is to the American, as the hostess for New York, United Nations, to help me. Not because I'm a nice man or not. And there is not a father who's a president. This had been a false rumor. He had been a father figure on the trips on the holidays. Like exchange parents, yes, I was having, as a small child, and it is a custom, you have a family who is caring for you. And there had been someone that was said later had been a governor or a president. And this is not giving you any ideas. This is only that you understand. I've been in the Russian, in how long I don't remember, but in a hostess family or in a guest family as well. I was not in a hostage situation to be criminally in a prison. No, I don't mean it. Host. You understand? You're invited, and I had been in other parts being invited. And then it had been that strange, but I did not complain. With the university, it had been strange. I got the idea, oh, time had changed. It's changing. But now, the government not answering. Could it be that politically I am put in a false box, in a wrong box? People think I was already doing something. I did not. This is important, you understand. I never resigned, and I won't do it. But I have not the idea to do what people expect. I'm of course, no. I'm not a king without having any house. I'm not a Kaiser without having a staff to work on the businesses. This is ridiculous to think about ancestry and then automatically to think about following in the footsteps. This is not possible. And it is not possible to think that I want to give to charity what I don't have, but what I should have. And it is still there. It is governed by others. And it is not to be counted in money. It is a land. It is the possibilities, the fishing rights, and I don't know what. But this had been a rumor and a legendary story only, because Karl, the own grandfather, he could have been the manager. And this then would not make him the owner. But he must have been like a travelsman, emperor. And his people, the seamen, and the natural living people, the Indians in Brazil, possibly so. You understand? Understanding there is more than only rumors, more than legendary stories. My mother would then be someone in the Kaiser family who was not thrown out. There then had been, but she was in an escapee. No, she had been in a position, later it was before the courts, and she said, you will learn about it later. But then my mother was too old, and others did not communicate anything, and this is not okay. I've been asking, 1986, there's nothing. A dreamer, my mother was called. And Mama, she had been a dreamer too. She was, that was communicated, not accepted as Johanna Marina because of DNA. Now understanding this was not okay, because the man there most likely had been the grandson of a Russian, and not of the Grand Duke Donatus. This does not make me automatically a Grand Duke, and not a Duke of Hanover, Braunschweig-Lüneburg, but it could be that all three positions, and it is right that way, had not been given away. But automatically, nothing is there. This is not that I wanted to forfeit anything. I asked. No, you can't do. You can't go there with a knife and put it on the throat I feel politically being cheated. And the same with Hohenzollern and with Switzerland, two cantons, and with France, and with Spain, but I'm not saying it had been the Spanish, or the French, or the Switzerlandish. No, it could well be a man in the middle. It had been the state philosophy of the DDR, of the eastern parts of Germany, the politically communist countryside, the idea to do something. But then those countrysides joined the Federal Republic and the Grundgesetz. And there is a protection. Yes, and it had then been laws, maybe criminally invented. If you do not have it, you lose it. This is not okay, and this is not valid. Because I couldn't go after it. I had no chance. I asked governors or minister president. I couldn't do more. It was said to me, oh, don't molest me anymore. The next time I will throw you out. Who had the advantage? The banks? Or maybe so. What is with Liechtenstein? What is with Italy? Greece? Turkey? I do not say anything against Turkey, against the Osmanian Empire. I don't do it, because it is a thing that should have been started right here. Are the Social Democrats behind it? Maybe so. You understand, it is something that is to be looked into, but not that I do it. It is in the interest of the people who have lost any opportunity to have such a merchant, seaman and travelsman system spanning from Russia to be internationally toward Alaska, around the world of course, Japan, Asia, Oceania, New Zealand, Australia and so on, South America. And that was somehow the company. My grandfather was considered a manager, but he was not. He was more than that. And this is news jumbled across. Even more interesting to you maybe as well. And my English should not be good. I'm against good appearances without being good in the heart. And I had acquaintances like, really, this Mr. Disney, Walter, was he or was he not? And he said, we lost it, and I now understanding I did not. He somehow was contracted in the Netherlands. But if he lost it, I didn't. Because I followed orders and I kept out of contracts. But you won't expect me to take anything, not till I know. I'm not a moral man anymore, because moral was misused, had been misused. Yugoslavia was apart because of ethnic conflicts. I'm very shy to do anything. But if there is now a conflict, a war in Ukraine, of course I know it is the Soviet Union and the history of the countryside that is to be looked into, even of more interest than the money having been invested there. I remember there had been a channel built to have a better transport system to Ukraine. But understand, please, people are moving things, and this could be cheating. And this is someone She was considered a sister. This is someone being considered a brother. No understanding. It could be from the start a patchwork family. And that lady my mother said, if you are asked, rather think about it twice. And I did. And I learned to say no. Think twice about it. I expected my father coming back from the war. I adored him as my mother did. I followed her example, but how was my mother adoring my father? He was called grandfather because of her age, his age, and my mother's age. He could have been more than 35 years older than my mother. Now understanding my mother could have been born not 1904, but 1892. And this could then be proven by doctors who said, me being 6 years old, your mother is much older, and why did she lose parts of her body? Was I cut out at birth? I don't know. Had I been cut out? I don't know. It is not, my mother, she was quite in fear. Sometimes she did not even left the house, and understanding she could have been the last of the emperor's family, the Kaiser family. This is against the law. You do not need to like her or not, but it is international a law, a real contracted law to give, and this then had been neglected, it could have been cheating or not, an income without anything, without contract, and the income on the level that is due to her. And if she had been the Queen of Prussia, this could be something to be looked into. Because the emperor, he resigned as the King of Prussia and as Kaiser, but who then had become, and there had been rumors, and I thought about a secretary. She must have been a secretary there. Yes, you think about things, but not that my mother had been a queen. The poor conditions. And then others having money. The Prussians not swimming in it, but having enough of it. To have a riding horse, to have cars, to have festivals, and we didn't. We didn't. We looked like poor men, and we were. And we wore clothes not very good. But this is not to complain. This to understand, it is history. And this is a democratic republic. It is. There have been discussions about the will of the people. I'm not against the DDR. This is the eastern parts. I'm not against it. My mother said, we stay not sided. I was trained not to be a capitalist and not to be a communist. It is important that you understand. This is Eastern Germany. And many went there, tried to escape. You understand? It is not that I judge it. I only say how it had been. This is Berlin. And we had been there. I had been invited. And now understanding, there had been security. But was it? I don't know why this is. With a black scar. I don't know why is it there. Oh, it is a folding curtain. And this is Austria. I understood my mother was someone that gave advice. I thought it is like someone doing a mission work, but she was not. She then said, I don't do it for free. You should what? Receive? But I didn't. And I have no place to ask. And this is really true. There's no document in the house. And my mother had been looked on like being someone, a vegetarian, but she explained it to me, there can be things in meat. She once felt to be poisoned. Poised. Who could do such a thing? Do you have enemies in the stock market? Why then no income? Was it all spent on my birth? This is, as I said, not good English. Now the brain is working better than before, and sometimes I think it started when there had been the computer and the internet, and it is a suspicion, but I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm not saying it is there because of G5 or radioing or the smartphone waves. I don't say it that way, but if it is possible to influence me negatively, and if someone is being interested to do so, who could be that man or woman? And who would pay for it? In the stock market, sorry, this is the Commonwealth or the British Empire. And on the voyages, I sometimes was taken alongside, for example, visiting China. I don't know how it came along, how it was argued to give me that chance to be in the company. And this is, of course, a thing where now I understand I was taken alongside, but not accepted. I was only invited. And this is a thing I want to know. I want to know I'm not part, and I'm not interested to be part in the British family. I don't like it, because my mother said she wanted to have co-working, but not working for work relation companionship. And this was strange, because Germany had lost 2 wars, and my mother thought, and she kept that position, that there could be a revival. And I never experienced it. Maybe it is there without any communication in the papers. Even that had been being argued, not too much, but there had been help to have a peaceful relationship. But it was never done alone. It was something I thought all the old people are being involved voluntarily, without pay, as a mission. But I never thought to go along. That idea, I wanted to have income. I never wanted to live on social insurance. On the social insurance level, it was not social insurance. It had been a widower's pension, maybe 600, as I said before, and then, because it was not enough, 300 on top. And why did my mother not get more? She never said that the father had been dead. He was not declared dead. He was expected home. But I understand that Karl, the grandfather, he had someone caring for his, I don't know, affairs, or caring on his behalf. And once he said they should give it directly to you, and then nothing came. Therefore I thought, people are dreamers. If you communicate it again and again, you will once have something. I couldn't put it into practice, but they are obligated to give it to you. I do not want to have money only, but to know about everything. And it was never the case. I could not have done so. Was it the trick? People asking, for example, at an office, and then it went back, he is too sick. There had been the rumors. You should be in bed. There came someone to the house, and I said, no, I never had been bedridden. You understand, I'm now being suspicious. I corrected that. This was not every day. But now being suspicious, going through the whole course of my life. And I was thinking there had been then people being disappointed. India, for example. This is only a sample of South Asia, 1965. And then there had been India, Pakistan, and I expected a career, and then one block after the other, and you take it, because not knowing where to prove. One of the sayings of my mother, she said, people will give it, like expecting the honest German officer. It is really true. She said, der deutsche Beamte hat die Zeit überdauert. She really said the German officer had survived the Kaiserreich. And I think there is something, but government is not answering. Maybe putting away like the eastern parts did it, or try to do it, and this is proven. I'm not saying that is that way. Thinking that the DDR hadn't been that bad. There had been Wolf and Honecker planning to have a very legal and rightful system of a different kind, but very law-abiding. And there had been others. I didn't know, I didn't meet. Maybe those did it otherwise. Maybe those being from neighboring brother countries. Therefore, saying the DDR or the eastern parts, it is not necessarily the government there, but who tricked me having no answers? Who did so? Was it the Netherlands, or had it been Belgium? Luxembourg? No, I don't think so, but I'm saying it that you understand. There is not a blockage of France. Greenland or the USA? Why had been Bavaria been the state where there had been the NATO barracks of the Americans, of the US Americans, and then it was not allowed to have a king's party. It was in the papers. Those had been forbidden by Americans. Why are those against kingship? It is, of course, a thing of old. You cannot have democratic ideas being pushed under. This is not in the idea of American belief, but no understanding. With that suspicion, this is comedy, but not being funny. Yes, it is comedy that is not true. You won't believe it. A poor widow, having been possibly Victor Louise, the daughter of the emperor, and he was quite a businessman, rather his wife. His wife had been the Stur es 1000 Rinder, Mutter meiner Kinder. That had been the saying that the emperor said in German. I already cited it. That this is someone stubborn as 1,000 1,000 heads of cattle, and mother of my children. Stur es 1000 Rinder, Mutter meiner Kinder. And that was about Auguste Victoria, and she had been from Glücksburg, and this most likely had been talent scouting result. A talent scouting result, putting Wilhelm II to Auguste Victoria, and then my mother being a child. And most likely it had been, but I thought my mother had been found. The empress had been a scout herself, looking for talents. And I have to take the inside knowledge to give me an idea. My mother could have been the original, and this must have been known, but not to me, not to Mama, not even to Mama. And Mama had been a talent herself. She was not pleased. Do not follow talent scouts. They played the trick with me, my mother said. Mama, in German, die bauen Luftschlösser. Und dann stellen sie Bedingungen und dann kann man die nicht erfüllen. Those in English build castles in the air. And then prerequisites are being built, being invented, and you cannot fulfill it. And at the end you pay for it. Und am Ende zahlt man das auch noch. It is important, you understand, I am saying there have been tricks. But the Netherlandish are not one. Those have cities, and in every city there is a group of merchants, and even Denmark is that way. You cannot say a country does it, or is not doing it, or is not protecting. Therefore, this is not to put America in a box. And not France, and not Luxembourg. And not Morocco, and not Algeria. Algeria. I don't know exactly how it is. Mauritania, Egypt, Libya. It is important that my mother said that was in former days a countryside where there had been high regard. A high regard. For what? I thought for the diplomatic force my mother had been part of. And it's important, I'm not saying that I know. I'm looking, and I'm suspicious, and I'm saying for security reasons, this is comedy without any comedy. Because doctors gave me bad names. After all, I could end up being a conspiracy theorist. You understand? It is dangerous to say things looking like accusations to people. And it is as it is. That had been the block system. Of course, people in Russia are differently than in Canada and the United States. This does not put them in a box. I was trained that there are different schooling systems of diplomats. And how is it there? Or are those depending on England? Even Scotland and Wales and England are different. And North Ireland and Ireland once had been one. Or isn't it that or has it been differently? I'm looking stupid, and you ought to know I am in a stupid situation. The situation is that stupid that it is no comedy. I want to know, is there a reason people could play some radioing or some internet think against me. The internet is somehow blocked from time to time, not explainable. Otherwise, then people are deliberately doing things, and there is, like in a studio, some messaging. And it is a technique that is there since 1899. That is, of course, not the exact year, but there had been a radio technician from of old, and he was accidentally having such an effect. And I don't know where it had been. South America, it was said. It is Indian radioing, or isn't it? If it is a side effect, you can avoid it. But what is with America? It had been the country that was nearly automatically in one part of the heart. And now understanding, this could be the reason that is to be looked into in my birth circumstances. And there are the black people, or the Afro-American. And once I had been somewhere, and there in a house where there had been a foster mother. And she was getting a little bit income because she cared for me. I was there with several other children, and then there was rumor, the son of someone is here. He ought to be 30 years old. And I wasn't. I was maybe 5 years, 3 years. But the rumor came up, was it someone looking for me? And I was taken away. And then the foster mother put a black color on my head and said, better you are not recognized as being white. And there was preaching, fierceful, a fiery preacher. Very loud. I was in the last row, having had sunglasses, and I thought, what's going on? You understand? This is inside knowledge. I want to know. It had been the time where there was a standing up if a white came to a black passenger in the bus, in the busing system. And there I had been somewhere in South America, and I heard again, is he that young? Is that really him? Who did say so? And this is strange. I was there, and I was the only one who gave a report home. And then my mother learned that it could have to do with Fritz. She had to make the conclusion herself. And then she said, was really Karl the owner, not only manager, Karl, behind Stresemann. She knew he was having enemies. France wanted to have the headquarters of the United Nations. And then somehow I was invited later, but people did not say. What I wanted to know, why? Was I talented? And then something went on the road I don't know about. And this is now being very suspicious because of the strange reaction, not giving me answers, but that I am right. No, it is not, but I'm stirred up. Maybe to let me look like lunatic. But being loud does only make me someone nervous, not someone crazy or sick. And it's important. I want to stay in this house. It is like a memorial on what conditions my mother was living, and I want to have my mother being honored. Because she was right, the other kind of nobility representative, if that is true, what I think. my research found out. What was it in Paraguay? What was it there? There was another asking, and I thought, interestingly enough, there is as well someone interested, even asking about a future work relationship. Or was it like in Yugoslavia with Tito or Franco in Spain? I thought those were asking for advice. And it was then a thing to put it into a hopefully peaceful way to transform to a democrat or more democrat or a different democratic system. You understand? I think about the result of the democratic ideas to be worked out this or that way. You can vote, or you can have discussions. You can give your vote to the delegate, this or that way. There could be a house first voting, and then the head of a house being the voter. There are different kinds of systems. I do not think the DDR had much a chance being forced to be in the Eastern Bloc than to do it the rightful way, and it did not work out. But I'm not excusing. Those had tricks. I was raised not to do it that way. And I met the people who were after the idea of Wolf. I think he was Wolf and Honecker and Margot. Or Margot. And I had been invited to give my opinion if those are really wanting. There was a lookout for people who had it in their blood, who wanted to have an honest system, and I don't know if it did work out. I was perplexed how fast the system then was sold out, and we had no chance except to give advice. But no understanding, it could have been otherwise if we, I should already, if there's anything, have had it in my hands. You understand? It is not to inherit it. It should have been there from birth on. But this is important. It is not for me to ask for something, but I need support. I need support. This is legendary with art, because I was explained it that way. I thought people were joking, saying that there had been pirates waging war for America. No, it had not been pirates. It had been the German freebeuter. Those were rightful warriors, not like we do it today, but military had evolved. And I wanted the way you do it with others you like to remember. Look from their position to the world, from outside their shoes. Put yourself in their position and think about it. The forefathers wanted to abolish slavery, but not because those had been leftish people from the left wing, from the political left side. It was not in their worldview to have slaves. But then it was the idea, it is not good to have a slave who is not wanting to evolve. his ideas to have motivation? I think so. That it was the idea it is more beneficial if someone is set free. And there had been the story that was communicated to me from, if it is Mrs. Marshall, Celine or Cecilia, she said, it could be one among your forefathers. I was very little worm, and I want to know if I had been officially known as being, as having been the little baby who was talking, even having a very weak voice. I remember, yes, very little, like a handful. I remember there had been a lady, mostly it had been Mrs. Marshall. I think it had been her, or was it someone else with a flat nose? She said, I have a nose that is a little bit flattened. She said it that way. Her life calling had then been to help her husband. And he was studying, she was a helper in his studies, and then something went wrong. And she expected as she communicated as well, someone is trying to hinder. I hope that is only a theory. But in case you are making trouble, it is comedy. This is between the First World War and the Second. And what is it? Oh, it is something where there had been people from other ethnic or other national groups. And it is important to understand there had been wars. And my mother said that Karl had been fed up with the many casualties being in a warrior's family, and he was more and more following the idea to have a diplomatic solution only. And this must have started from the time he had been in the United States. He was considered a tribes chief who had been converted. He wanted to know about the Western style, and somehow accidentally it was a true conversion. And then it could have been the day of the baptism of my father in 1894. That his birth date had been his baptism, or his conversion date. But this is legendary, never possible for me to prove it. Legendary telling, and I had been shocked hearing about it, because then my father would be, my mother being 15 years old, she once said, and he could well have been over 40. And it is not that the leaders had many choices. You won't choose your mate with that difference in age. But she could rely on him more than on others. Therefore, she had highest regard, and I saw it not by her talk, but thinking about what would Fritz Johann would have done. What would he do? He always had a good counsel to give, and then she asked me, even me being very little, you understand, this is history my mother endured herself, and there had been some kind of resistance position. And this is the Third Reich, the dictatorship of the regime called Hitler regime. And there had been the BRESLAU-FRIENDS. There's Breslau. Called with me BRESLAU-FRIENDS because those had not been old. Grandfather's friends, that is ridiculous. Those had been very young. And even the three investigators are most likely, of course it is a novel, a series of novel stories, three investigators, how's that working? Is it going to give me internet connection? And this as well is strange. If there's someone thinking he has the right to have some other radioing, that is of course then disturbing. If you have, for example, a disturbance, like in a situation where there is no smartphone allowed, you could hinder that. And who could do so? In German, es könnte eine Beschallung sein, die hier stattfindet. It could be something being called radioing, Beschallung in German, and that had been with the old Wehrmachtsfunker, the old radioing staff of the Wehrmacht, who said those who were on the lookout if the leader was saying he is not feeling well. And it was then an attack. As I said, it is possible to have this Richtfunk, this radioing, and then in the middle there is energy, much energy to disturb, but this is conspiracy. Is that possible? Who would do so? And it is for you to look, to have a look at the possibility. That is me. And the others, I have no idea if those believe it or not. I think those don't. Those don't. Three investigators is not working. I want to show you a little bit about it, because the rumors say that it had been in reality mostly between Breslau, Wrocławia or Wrocław, and Łódź. Łódź having had a large German-speaking community, and Breslau of course as well, mostly. And it's important, it had been in the US, where the banking system was having headquarters, and the merchants system and the sailing man system. And there the children were helping the parents, with their work, and the parents had always a need for security. Therefore the three investigators, called three question marks in Germany, had been real. And it was a rumor that Justus, this is three investigators, and it is of course put much out of proportion, very much, but not in the first three. In the first three novels, I can remember their real stories were tried to be used, maybe a little bit with the imagination, somehow filled in. You see, it had been the more technology, the better. And most likely it had been around, I don't know if it is strange now to think about it. My father being Justus? Was he looking that young? Yes, he was quite quite small in stature. And it is strange that you would then think about, oh, what is going on? But it had been a real dangerous situation. In the 20s, for example, you had to protect yourself. But I can't do that. I need real, serious diplomats from all over the world. Not too many. But there's no one near who is accepting the idea that there could be a hindrance or the effort to hinder me. Or is it that there is someone else, 2 or 3 parties, and one putting it in the shoes of others? This could be possible. There had been, for example, the Western nobility and then the Eastern, the Baltic, and the Swedish are different nobility systems, and the Irish is different than the United Kingdoms. And there is, of course, in Africa something, and then in Asia, and then Australia is a little bit different in the Commonwealth than Canada. And this is possible that it is happening something is happening. And it could look like that the man who is accepting I'm there, he is being regarded as being the source of something that he did not do. And this is a story very easily understood if you read one of the books. The 3 investigators, this is not the book, those were detectives looking into mysteries where it is put that way that you had to think about not only double crossing, but someone behind it playing with 2 double crosses. And of course I read everything of it, and I thought it is an evil world, but it is not better if you can't do it to solve the riddles. And the riddles that have been Enid Blyton, she had been someone that had been, you see, in the writing, and once, I remember, it was with Dietrich Kronstein. It was not 5 on something, but it had been there Dietrich Kronstein and 3 and Vector. And 3 little investigators or children investigators. Of course, it is not possible, but it could. It is not possible that everyone could do it, and it is quite dangerous. Therefore, do not think about the idea to be a detective yourself. The world is not nice, as it is on the appearance, and I'm glad I had a help alongside, because once I was taken along, and it could well have been criminally. I had a car ride, and then I said something, and he left me free. You understand? Therefore, me complaining, if there is a security risk, why did no one, and I had protection, I think it was privately, or was it something else in Peru? Yes, it was planned. You won't go on a voyage, on an adventure trip to look for ethical acquaintances without planning security. Therefore, the topic is quite important. And then they had Lindgren. It was Astrid, and Mama said she had been there when the first Pippi Longstocking had been invented, and my mother was not pleased with it. She said people ridiculed her. she was wearing long stockings not to have a cold. But is it something? Is it my calculation, my putting it together? Or is it really something? Now I'm looking for Kaiser and daughter and of course Willem. There is inside, my mother explained how it was organized. The horses were put there by train, and then on the marketplace there was a ceremony. Yes, indeed, my mother was there, but was she a helper? Was she playing the part of the daughter? It is not that quick that she had been, but with me it is important. There is privately a career, and this is privately only, from 1930 or something, and my father had always been private. This is not officially a state, the so-called caste system. You understand? Had those been field marshals? My father said, no, Papa said nothing about it. My mother said, ask someone, and he explained, but it is not a document. He explained it that way, that he was not in the soldier's business, but he was being the industrial man, earning quite a money by selling equipment, quite some money. And then it is all gone, or had my grandfather be the manager only. There is a difference, and I'm now understanding it is no question. He had been the owner, but that does not make me rich. There's nothing. Because I think he bought land. Did he spend everything? That was a legendary story, but I think it is true. But how can I prove? I think it could be with circumstantial evidence, and this is relatively new. It is important that my nose is always closed. It's important that I was, as I communicated, at a diplomatic school for children for 1 week as a visitor. And there it had been the saying, modern technology and in the hands of the opponents could make you sick. The water should be tested. There is no water testing in this place, and the air, and maybe radioing. There had been a circus who said, no smartphones allowed, the animals behave strange. And then an animal zoo, and there the costly animals are having some radioing to come out of the den. And it is in the animals trainers books that you can use it, but those are mammals. The human is in the group himself or herself. Therefore, having maybe a similar nerve system, it could be negatively used, and with the officers in the army, it had been in the times from of old, with some who knew it could be done, then the idea to look out, and it is not that I want it. I do not want the idea. It is strange who could do such a thing, but it could be double crossing or 2, 3 playing double crossing. Then of course threefold, fourfold. There had been of interest the so-called Indians in me, in the situation of being interested in me, because in a career I would then be, people said, a businessman, not having anything, but those wanted me as a counselor to revive the old network. But then I was too slowly growing or being born too late. But that does not make any difference. If there is any land, I first want to know. I want to know about everything. The world is now a small place. You can now administer it easily. Are there any seamen left? Are there any Indians left who want to have some kind of business? And the business idea had been a little bit different. It had been like a loaning and helping. Being glad that everything is going well, the welfare is there. And there had been the movie where the red fern grows. And it was strange being at home. My mother said, "It is not done that way. You gave nothing away. It is not possible," by saying so. Yes, she said you gave nothing away with 6 years, 7 years, 8 years. It must have been 1977. It is not possible. If it is a land, but if it is not, you better say nothing, because raising the alarm. Therefore there's a difference. Maybe the company was having land and some of it was only administered. Therefore, who knows? I'm not playing games. I'm not playing with the chairman of this Senate. I'm not playing with someone from Bible Gateway. I'm not playing with someone from Alaska. I'm not playing with VCY. I'm not. But strange ideas that people said, if you don't know, you don't have it. Yes, I looked around. Who knows something? And this is important. It should be known. Now understanding that Stresemann was quite important. Now understanding I had been invited, and it was said where I had been. Your grandfather Karl. Maybe he was a troublemaker in the stock market. And it was proven he was not on the travel anymore. But why were people looking, not explaining? You understand, it's strange. I wanted to know, and then I waited from Florida, nothing came. It was rather ridicule. If you don't know, you don't have it. This is not true. This is not true. The Third Reich is all over the world, disgusted because of the breaking of human rights. There is a protection status quo. It is really there, not being Jewish. That's not necessary. I'm not a Jew, but there have been friendly relationships. Those have been quite capable, having had, and maybe still have, a good raising system, with strict rules, maybe more Prussian than I am. I had been raised, my mother did quite a teaching, and there had been others being teachers. But in between, I don't know if it is customary not to do anything. I never got the idea that I had been important except abroad. Abroad, the standing of my forefathers had been quite on a level. I thought, is it because Germany had been the country of quality and the rumors had been that out of proportion that everyone thought that my parents being merchant diplomats on their own behalf, privately, that those then automatically would have inherited it to me? It could be even that. 2 hours not far away, 1 hour 54. No, 45. Sorry, my glasses are not that good. Yes, Astrid Lindgren. I would be interested in that. And now let me look again at Walt Disney. If that is true, I won't say I'm otherwise than a little bit sad. I would have liked to grow up faster, and we had plans. I don't say that it was him, but he looked like him. Yes, you see, he looked like him. And the idea had been to give the countryside a better name, not to have only the breaking of human rights. This, of course, is a thing I could not even imagine. How could people do it? But now understanding it is you could explain it. Being sober-minded psychiatrist, that people come to the state of being more evil than enemies. Therefore, it is the idea to do something the children are raised right. And about the BRESLAU-FRIENDS, that could have been something like the 3 investigators. Not more. You can't go there and raise your finger and say, oh, it is better to learn it, like I did. I was shocked then having heard most of the friends of your grandfather had been Jewish. Not him. He wouldn't have done it. I thought, really? For 1 day or 2? I thought, no. I had been 10 years old hearing it. And then I considered the possibility those had been different, the BRESLAU-FRIENDS, in Breslau, in Bratislava. But then they had been in Berlin and in Stuttgart, Frankfurt. No, Stuttgart, Frankfurt. Maybe Stuttgart as well. And how come? My father learned about them and the others did not. I can't say about that, but only that I learned about them before understanding that others didn't like those groups, those in the groups. And the rumor had been those had been not as you would have had it with your friends. It was between the lines. No one did say so. And I thought for 1 day or 2, not my father. And then I understood people did not know. Understand? It is strange. And what did with him? I asked him, of course, myself, and he said not too much, but you can't put those in a box. But no understanding, it was rather a thing you can't explain, and you cannot teach except bringing it, as I said, with maybe 3 investigators. This is Hitchcock. Three investigators. I remember me having had an invitation, and he said on that day, I want to be nice. I was introduced as a sensible boy, I am. And he said, are you alone? And I said, yes. He said, that is not good. I will call for someone. You should not be alone. But I had been, quite often. Why did he say so? And he said, maybe you have someone. Your father always had someone, even not seen. Yes, he was having detectives in his own company. No, being a manager. No one said whose that company had been. Who had been the owner. It was not the custom to show it. One looked like the other. He had better shoes, the grandfather. But was he the manager or the owner? Now everything is pointing. Only known today that he had been the owner. And people were tricking him, as custom, unfortunately. 3 investigators. Which is famous 5 again. There had been Old Yeller. I was invited at the movie set, but many people played with it. I didn't know too much. Only that I had been, on occasion, playing a little bit alongside. You see, is that Disney as well? If it is, then I was not explained too much about it. Of course I want to know, but that is not that important. People are taken alongside and are giving chances, and I had been watched. And then people asked, and I gave answers, maybe on the table, and those had been pleased. And therefore I was already known as someone who had a talent, as was communicated in the United States, but not, I thought it was in the United States, but not in the city. I was different, being here like in a cold refrigerator, and maybe it had been all over the place. The Lost War, then the breaking of the cruelty of human rights had been there in the papers, and some had been defending themselves. It had been that way. It had to be that way. And my mother said not much about it. She said those did not know the BRESLAU-Friends. Those did not know grandfather's friends, yes. But grandfather's friends, because of his age, and because of his standing. I don't know too much. Maybe now the time is there, not to have any fear anymore. He must have had argued with the leaders about the dangers to go to the east to wage war. It must have been fearful arguing, like even havoc. My mother said, unfortunately, he could not put his warning through, but he had to do it. And then he already had been retired. This is important, but he did it because of his responsibility, and I'm fearing that you do not understand. There is not one bit of support. This is paper MABE BRESLAU-FRIENDS. Maybe you do not understand. It is not about money only. Money is there to be used. The land is there to be developed. But I cannot do it with people who are playing tricks. I need the exceptions. Mr. Walt Disney, I don't know his real name. He had been an exception, and he said so. I knew, and we had agreed not to play tricks. And I asked, is that right? And he said, oh, let me look into it again. I was very young, and it was very short. And he had other people, he asked. Therefore it is not that strange, but had I been with Mr. Johnson, the US President, he was a holiday papa. Or was it one of his men? But my mother did not like the idea that someone else could be my father. There was a lookout. I can remember who will be my father. And then it was Papa, and Papa had been the raising father. It's important. Therefore it could be something like exchange father. That's possible. But there's no connection anymore since a long time. And I need someone who is understanding. This is not about the sensible thing, it is about legality. What's going on? I did not lose any war. I was even born, maybe United States. This was a good dog, but he was very old. Maybe I was this one. I had been this one. don't know how many children played there. I would have done it with another topic. I don't know what was going on in the little farm in Paris, because being there does not make you part of it. You are a visitor. You are a visitor, but there's a pilot, and people played a trick on me, and they played the girl. Of course, that is ridiculous. I'm no girl, but pilot. You're wearing a wig. Therefore, people are funny. Are funny and doing things, but it is not a funny thing. Now, looking for ancestry and understanding, the rumors have been quite with a dimension in it. And now I'm looking red fern, gross. And not everything was okay. No, it was not. There had been customs that had been strange. And the two dogs had been smaller at the beginning. I remember I hadn't been there very often, as a visitor only. And this was, of course, quite extraordinary. But maybe it is not provable, then it is only a tale. But please understand, this is true, that I'm looking for the possibility. My mother had been Victoria, Louise, and there's pressure. Had been a name, but she, in that reenactment, maybe it is. This could be, because more than it clicked. Once I saw and I thought, the looking is first of all different. Therefore those could be different people. That is someone else. This is then reenactment, I think, there. You see the other hair color. And this could be, yes, there's a scar. There had been a scar, but it could well be that the others were having a scar then as well. It had been a group of ladies, and for me it is important that I do not want to have it. It is not wishful thinking. People are giving me a bad name, and it is quite important to understand that it is with doctors who could pave the way that this is not taken seriously. Please do not follow alongside. This is the evil schizophrenic. And this is not giving you any right to think that way. A schizophrenic is socially withdrawing. I'm not. I was having night shifts, and therefore I was withdrawn because of the work, and not by my own thinking. That's important. Hostility or suspiciousness, I'm not having that. It is a suspicion like a detective does it. Deterioration. Oh, yeah, no. I still like to wash myself. I'm more like someone in the natural field, or like one of the hillbillies. This does not make me in a lacking situation. Is not giving me the name of being deteriorated. Flat, expressionless gaze. Huh? What? This is maligning my name. I can make faces. It is not necessary. It isn't. This is maligning the name of my forefathers. Inappropriate laughter or crying. This is, of course, inappropriate. What is appropriate? What is proper? This is all interpretation of something you don't know. Depression, yes, you could get depressive because seeing no one is interested to look into merchandise loss. Because not having what is rightfully yours for years, for decades, is making you into someone who did never get the idea that there is something, like in the books, with the man in North Italy who had been the rightful owner of hotels. And then he was being raised by mayors, by priests, and I think doctors, and those gave him a moral thinking that he was responsible very much, and those manipulated. It had been a novel. I was reading very much, and not having a television set, I was into reading very much. And this man, or this boy, then took his own life. This is ridiculous. I would never follow the idea that I'm responsible except for what I really planned and wanted to do. It is a responsibility not with me, that the chances to have a new good natural man's system, of course you need work there, it is not holiday, and it is not Disneyland. But fishermen could have been supported. Are those supported with others, by others? Maybe. Oversleeping or insomnia. Yeah, this is because of apnoic. Is it that way? Because of that what I now understand as being preborn. No, not preborn, premature. Having been premature, maybe only 500 grams. Was it a joke? As heavy as a glass of honey. Of course, mother said those want to put things in your head. Mama. Was Mama advised never this political thing with the birth? I think it had been politically quite explosive. Maybe I was born in a Jewish hospital and those thought I had been a Nazi boy. And even if I had been that way, but I was not. And I remember quite a lot that I say it must have been South Africa or United States. And I had been in New York and I claimed I want to have it. I claimed it. Being 18 years old, I said it is important, even in case this is not true. What or irrational statements, oh yeah, forgetful, unable to concentrate, being sick, this could happen. Extreme reaction or criticism, oh man, quite a sum of people this will then have as a result. Schizophrenic, I don't believe it is a thing to look into. Is it to stop detective work? Strange use of words or way of speaking. Every comedian then is, come on. And this is, look at it. There are truly people who, what is that? This should resemble a man, Yes, the illness is there, but is it in the DNA, or is it something I don't like the idea and I put it far away? There is no schizophrenic disorder. It is only doctors' ideas. And it is rather my theory, this could be, no, this can't. I'm saying this is not there. It's not possible, because who would do it? Who would do such a thing? Who? Not possible. This is not possible. It is very true that just get garbage. Therefore, I'm saying this is only a thing I came across remembering that at a diplomatic school for children, in the holiday schooling, I learned about the possibility that your surrounding could be infiltrated. But who would do such a thing? Could it be that there is someone, and someone else is remotely doing the trick, that it is looking like someone did it? Possibly so. A third could then have the benefit, playing the detective, to help you, being in an even worse situation. And this is detective thinking of the three investigators. And it had nothing to do if those are Jewish or not, or Christians or not. It had to do with the kind of people. But it would put the whole idea about the Third Reich into a different perspective. The BRESLAU-Friends had been pillars of society, maybe 80% being Jewish and 20 Christian. And the father, he was formerly in a tribe, not being of any belief. But then Karl converted, and he was called the Indian chief. But was he their Indian chief because he had a blood brother? Was he Karl? Who is Karl Gott? Who is Karl Gott? Karl Gott with Biene Maya. I remember there had been someone who was inventing this, and there is Emil. Is that the brother who is not that, who is differently, the so-called Petrov brother? I remember he once was expressing the idea, okay, I want a new business idea, he said, in my dreams, or was it really at my house? And it is going on, Asterix, and Obelix. And this had been before, or was it? There had been a lady who said, "You're my Asterix." Because in the whole generation of my mother, there had been, as you now understand, she is from 1904 or 1892, I think 1892. In that generation there had been that many conflicts, and then no young children, and then me among them, being the only one. And that is me at school, looking older than I was. 16 years, no, 15 years I had been looking that way. And this had been Mama and Papa. Oh, this is a little bit damaged. This is my mother, because of pregnancy sharing. Mother the younger, mother the elder. And she looked that way because she was disappointed. 1905. Maybe she had been a strict business lady. This, with my mother, I still remember she said, "Yes, I think you can make it." she was expecting talent. She was expecting talent. That's Papa. Papa was quite opposite. Quite different. Why? Where is now? Ah, here, there it is. This had been me. I looked sometimes that nice. But then I remember it had been seldom. And I'm not complaining, but it looked better than it was. It looked much better than it was. I remember, there had been the problem with the language. In Tim and Struppy, you see, that had been a story from of old. Tim and Struppy. Snowy. You see, Tim and Struppy. There had been someone, a real man, who was then going to, I think, Belgium. Yeah, this is something maybe with a real story. What else? What else? It is about the talents around, going alongside, those authors, those painters. The whole system had been looking for someone to do networking. And my mother could do it, but who can now explain it to me? I had been that young, and then it was over. I had been very young, and then it was over, and I'm now thinking it is a sad thing not to understand. A sad story. This is a thing with junction, no, petticoat junction. If there's something that could prove that my mother, the younger, where is my mother? Oh, yeah, there she is. This is not the best photograph, but she had been a teacher. My mother had been a teacher, and I can remember I said, I need something. I remember you. This is petticoat junction, you see? Well, battery is curricular, that is fitting the whole situation. Oh no, that is not good. But I remember there had been the lady who was in the locomotive. Now it's dying down. And that is it. Hopefully this is not dying down altogether. I need you because I need someone who's interested in the whole thing. And that too. That is of course a postcard or something like it. And yes, Dennis the Menace. I totally forgot Dennis. And this is the father. But it is a photograph resembling him. There have been others looking like that. And I could do it better than talking in this poor English. But I deliberately do not want to give a good impression, of course. To express myself this way, that you understand, it is dying down. The whole thing, because there had been for decades something I cannot explain. But if there is an opposition, I should have known. There should be communication with government, explaining me how to help the whole situation, maybe understanding the opponents. There should be knowledge about it. Is it in the British system? Is it in the Netherlandish system? Is it in the Swedish system? Or is it in Britain only? What about Belgium or Luxembourg or Liechtenstein or Switzerland or Italy? My mother had a relation, no, acquaintances, yes, rather that, but she did not had too many. It must have been ladies, as I knew her. Some ladies being in a position to influence the film industry at the Waltons. The Waltons, maybe it is possible to have a look. So this is recharging very fast. Don't know. This is about the Waltons, the Wikipedia, and it is without any photographs. That maybe those are already all that sick, as it is in another newspaper article, not to be alive anymore, but that is not the question. Maybe it is an unhealthy business. But I am not willing to follow that path. You see, if you look there, how sick are those? Being of my age, I'm not willing to follow that way. Please help me to understand. And now looking hillbillies. But I had no relationship, only the short acquaintances, very short ones, only being a visitor without any exchange of letters or exchange of emails. Hillbilly. And so on, but I'm mostly interested family tree, but maybe it is not that important. Kaiser Wilhelm, I could not even imagine the idea that it could be a wishful thinking, because those had been that many quarrels and enemies. You don't understand? Yeah, maybe that is a photograph. It is a painting, I think. Of course, it is rather a painting. And I'm quite with that. Quite sure it is not about that, to find a place. It is about knowing, and mostly the adoration went to my father. But there's another father then. Is he father? This is not the question. The question is to know what others know, already must have known, because of the remarks, till now considered legendary only. And what I stated beforehand at the start of the whole reflection process, there could well be, because of those strange body reactions. I have been in the medical field myself as a caretaker. I understand there are explanations. And is it that there is something going wrong, like electromagnetic interference, or could it even be something like radioing? And I want to know, of course, if there are others who are abroad in foreign countries, because I never heard it in this country, Never. Yes, the rumor, but as a conspiracy theory. I heard it in Switzerland, as I stated before. In a shop, a father said to his son, "Are you hearing some? No, are you thinking?" Not hearing. Thinking? How can the thought life? I don't know. I thought strange people in Switzerland. And then in Brazil, Mr. Rose from Blumenau, he said, in Brazil the police could help, but I had such a nightmare this night in a hotel nearby, in Niedersachsen. This is Lower Saxony, the state. He was complaining at the police, and then he was busted in this treatment center I had to visit several times, and I don't like it. Not once. Is it like you are not pleasing, or what is it? And then complaining goes nowhere. You understand? I want to know and not blow it out of proportion. It happened to others. It happened to others. Maybe it is a thing that would have others too, but please do not put it together. I do not need it out of proportion, but do not take it lightly. If that is my mother, the original Victoria Luise, Prussia Hohenzollern, then there should be something I don't know about. And my mother did not want to be a member of the British family, and therefore I follow her idea to be self-reliant. Can I do that? What is self-reliance? The security of the state that is giving you a port to stay, a motel, or a house, or a flat that is hosting you. This country should be responsible, I think, by international regulations. And now the question is it known that my mother had a right because of her position? Did she had any position, or was she not? I think it was not officially. There's now the problem. Is there a protection because of the withstanding in the Third Reich? The resistance? Was it a resistance? Was she put in a concentration camp for 6 days, not even a week, or only 5 days? And then children wanted to free her and were then put to death, were killed. Doing it in wartime, to have a weapon in your hands and trying. And then I said, no, it is not your fault. If the children did it, then it is a thing that is not allowed to do. But she came out. Yes, people wanted to put pressure on us. We're looking for Nazi ideas. But I couldn't have those except not wanting to be put in a box. Maybe not everyone had been a Nazi. Thank you very much. My name is Friedrich, really. And the surname could have been Urban, but it was a different one. I think for security reasons. Therefore, please keep it as discreet as you can. And it is not complaining about police work, it is about not working at all. Thank you very much.